Hello and welcome to Cover Story. Today we're in conversation with Mahesh Jethmalani, Senior Advocate and Rajya Sabha MP from the BJP. Welcome to Cover Story, Mr. Jethmalani. Good to have you here on this. I must confess, when I sought an interview with you, I thought we'd talk about the collegium, the NJSC battle. But now there's so many more controversies and so much more has happened that I thought we'll begin with the current debate of the day, which is the Adani controversy. I see that you've spoken against the demand of the opposition for a JPC. Why not? Why not a JPC?
I think it's premature. I don't think there's any cause for a JPC yet. What has happened? There's a corporate whose shares have been hammered by professional hammerers, by professional bear unit. I mean, Hindenburg is known to be doing this kind. It's had a history of identifying companies and analyzing them and seeing that they are weak, that their shares can be hammered, and they do it. So, I mean, this was basically Adani should have been, a little more careful about his valuation going up, extravagantly within a very short space of time, and it was ripe for the killing. So, there are allegations of regulatory issues, right? But those are now being dealt with by SEBI and by the RBI.
But they are the regulators, so they are dealing with the issues that they should have dealt with in the first place.
Yes. So let's see now that the matter has been squarely brought before them. You may be right that they were remiss. I don't know. I'm not making a judgment call on anything.
So I'm saying, are they the right person to investigate? That's my question.
Well, if you find that there are shortcomings, if they are the right persons to investigate, right?
Okay.
Their past track record of alleged negligence shouldn't disqualify them because they're vested with that authority. If after this has been brought to their notice, it can be argued that they should have been monitoring it themselves, right? But they didn't, right? But now let's see, in the face of and the allegations are more detailed now. Hindenburg has now come out with an extremely, detailed analysis of what's wrong with the Adani group. So let's see. So it's premature. If you find that something is wrong, then you remain your demands. But every day to disrupt Parliament is, on this issue.
No, but they're saying, of course, the perceived closeness of Adani with the Prime Minister. Now you've seen Rahul Gandhi today saying that Adani ka chokidar hai, and that's all the government is doing, is favouring one industrialist. That's his favourite theme, and now this has been given to him on a platter.
But that would be a trap. By saying that you're perceived to be close, right? That's all right. That's your perception. But
I was being polite.
But if he was actually close, and if he was actually to say, yes, I'm close, so therefore do it, you'll be walking into an admission. You'll be making an admission and walking into a well-laid-out trap. Why would you want to do that? So, be arm's length. Let the regulatory authorities do what they have to do. Let them do their job. Let them give their report and their findings, right? And then, depending on that, attack those findings if you find that they are weak. And if you think there's evidence implicating involvement of the government in the Adani rise, you then bring it out.
But the fact that LIC was involved, that SBI and LIC too...
See, LIC has made an investment.
Yeah.
Right? Now, let us see in the long run whether their decisions... Please tell us why their decisions were wrong. Right? They saw that Adani's future is the Adani Group's future is extremely bright. So they made an investment, right? And they've said today that they are within the parameters of safety, right? They've got enough margins to protect their investment, right? They're not going to suffer a big loss. They'll have to tell the regulatory authorities, SEBI, etc., the RBI, will have to go into this and see if they are well secured for their investments.
But are you surprised at the way the markets have reacted? Because Hindenburg is a firm that is known for, doing investigation like this. But the way the markets reacted.
I mean, the markets have reacted primarily because of Adani. The fall in the market, because the Adani shares have taken a real beating. The rest of the shares are all very robust. Because there's been an analysis by an extremely proficient group. Bear operator who knows his job very well, right? So he's taken seriously. He's had a record. He's destroyed Chinese companies, destroyed others. So, you have to give, a lot of people have respect for this kind of organizations, right? I think it's making money the easy way But the bears would argue that, look, we take money from people who made companies that have made money the easy way. So it's it's a two-way game. So let's wait. I think I'm an open mind on this, right? We are on the specific question of whether a JPC is called for at this stage. I say it's not called for at this stage. That's all.
So when the opposition says this is the Bofors moment for this government, how do you react to that?
I mean, the Bofors, the direct money trail, which went all the way to Kutrochi, right? And that money trail was frozen by the UK authorities. It got released by the Solicitor General, who travelled to then Solicitor General of the UPA government, who travelled to London and allowed Kutrochi to take that money away, right? And subsequently, the income tax report has found that Kutrochi had received money in the Bofors deal. Now, unless you are so, if you keep saying that Adani is close to Modi, nobody can deny that Kutrochi was a near family member. Right?
Of the Gandhis. I was also, actually, business of legislation and conversations like this should happen in Parliament. But these days, with Parliament being the way it is, social media has really become the new forum. And I was looking at your Twitter timeline, and you've been pretty active, taking on Jairam Ramesh, firstly, on the BBC documentary, on his so-called links and partiality to China.
Having fun at Jairam's expense.
I can see that.
Okay.
A, the Jairam-China connection, B, the BBC-China connection. Or it's the same thing, is it?
It's writ large. It's in the public domain. There's not much. There's research. Look, for me, there was a triple hit, right? At the same time. Because this is the most important. I keep going on timing, right? Why is it happening now, right? Everybody must have expected, anybody with political acumen should have expected that 2023 has come. There are 9 vital state elections. It's a lead up to the national election next year.
Correct.
So, everybody is going to get, the opposition in its entirety is going to get very busy and active. There are going to be allegations and, things. So, we expected also, Republic Day was there. India is going to be, holding the presidentship of the G20. The budget was coming out. So, this was the most vital period, right? The hit should have been expected at this time. And sure enough, it came. It came at that time. BBC came just before Bharat Jodo Yatra ended just before the budget session. So, it started, that long walk started to end with it was to coincide with the beginning of this session.
So, there are no coincidences in politics.
See, the timing shows everything. And this fell okay. Now, I can't find anything with the Hindenburg report. I mean, I can't say that there is any extraneous factor there. Right? I'm not yet. I'm looking at it. But I certainly can't say that right now. It's too premature there as well. But as far as the other two are concerned, I've always suspected that, look, the Congress party has been, ever since that 2008 MOU, right, been on my radar. It has raised great suspicion.
This is the MOU with China.
With China, signed by Xi Jinping in 2008 it was signed with the Communist Party or a wing of the Communist Party, right? Which is known for spreading influence in foreign countries. And then you have, Sonia standing in the background, the Commerce Minister standing in the background, right? So this was and during the Beijing Olympics. Now, I thought, all right, so let's see what this MOU is. We've been repeatedly calling for the MOU. I've been saying it earlier, even earlier on when I was relatively inactive. I only started in 2019 on social media. I've been saying then that this should be called for, right? They're refusing to bring it. They could just have taken the sting out of this if that document was innocuous, right? They could have taken the sting out of this attack by just putting it all in the public domain, right? Now I'm extremely suspicious. That why are you hiding this MOU? What does it contain? What are its contents? Are you beholden to the Chinese Communist Party by its terms? Are you receiving money? Are you bound to speak their voice? Just like BBC is.
But Jairam has shot back with a counter-attack. He's asked you 3 or 4 questions, and one of them is the fact that the Chinese equation with the current government has also been pretty good until the invasion.
No, but it didn't go to the... Listen, everybody, you talk to your enemies. I'm not saying you don't talk to your enemies. But Jairam went overboard. He went completely overboard. He was an advocate for Huawei. I mean, he was advocating the expansion of Huawei at a time when the UPA government, his own governments, Home Ministry was taking serious objections.
But that was the Chidambaram Jairam turf war.
It may have been that, no, it wasn't. It was actually Dr. Manmohan Singh who came in and called him out. And he said, listen, please, and it was a Home Ministry. It wasn't, it was the bureaucrats in the Home Ministry who took serious objection. They're saying that they called it a security threat. And yet you were advocating their cause. And then Dr. Manmohan Singh, and he cowed down, he went away. He gave up the issue completely. Take another issue. He's recently talking about the pharma issue, when we are both competing to be the pharmacy of the world. On two small episodes in Gambia and in Azerbaijan, two incidents of some minor companies that whose medicines. Again, he went there on at a time when China is reeling under COVID, can't get its act together. Their policies in COVID have been stringent, right? Complete lockdowns. They've almost repressed their population. And you are implicitly, right, trying to compare us when their Sinovac hasn't worked and Covishield, and more than Covishield, according to me, Covaxin has been a roaring success. So, Jairam has always been taking a pro-Chinese stand, right? In 2009, when he was Environment Minister, right, he was advocating for the Chinese to come and help us with our projects in Arunachal Pradesh. At a time, I mean, they've always done this. The Chinese have always claimed Arunachal Pradesh as theirs. It is the most disputed territory between India and China. And he wants them to come over, and first he says that we must review all our hydel projects in the entire Northeast. Okay. Then
he says, let the Chinese.
Let the Chinese come. So, I mean, now, Jairam, I'm told, one channel told me he has said that that was in those days and things are different today. But things today are the same. You are claiming today complete knowledge, right? Where, I don't know. You have an Indian army. You have this government. You don't believe the government stand on the border skirmishes that took place in Doklam, Galwan and Tawang, right? If you don't believe them, right? Believe the Indian army. The Indian army said not an inch of territory has been lost. Unequivocally. Why would Jairam Ramesh, right? And of course, now he's the mentor. He's the new mentor. Today, he's the mentor of, Bharat Jodo Yatra is his baby. Let's face it, he makes all the statements. He shoes off, Digvijay Singh, right? Everything. He's in control.
So that was going to be my question. Jairam is obviously not your target. The larger reason for is...
But he's a strategist. Look.
So you think he's the advisor to Rahul or the strategist?
I'm not concerned with the figurehead. Right? Rahul has the Gandhi legacy and they can't do without that historical. Congress party can't do. They can't reinvent themselves. Right. They're going to be stuck in a time warp. The Nehru-Gandhi family. Now, this man doesn't say, with all due respect to him, right? Rahul doesn't say a sensible word most of the time. A lot of people say that he's improved tremendously. We've seen a great maturity in this Bharat Jodo Yatra. I mean, on the simple question about what was the policy
on Kashmir,
in he said, Jairam, what is our stand? So, Jairam is the brain. Now we have to attack the brain, the strategist. And we have to find out what his motives are for doing this. Why are you getting into China? Then he has a history. As I said, he's a Chinese pet. So he has a history. Look, this is all circumstantial evidence that this man, ever since he wrote that book, Chinya, right, has been praising China and Huawei. Now,
you read the book. I'm very impressed.
It's a very thin book. Okay. But I really was looking for the references to Huawei, right? Because Huawei has today turned out to be its entire telecom system is supposed to have backdoors which enables Chinese surveillance. That's why it's been banned. How many countries have banned it? Right? And he was doing it at that time. So, on two of the most important things, your surveillance system, you were begging to bring, you were over your home ministry, you were craving its presence and expansion in India, right? And on the vital thing about Northeast, dams, hydroelectric power. So they're in control over there during a war. We are subject to surveillance by Huawei, and our dams and water supply in the Northeast is all controlled by the Chinese. What kind of logic is that? And they were our enemies at all stages. They've never been nice. They've always had skirmishes with us. And that doesn't mean that Atalji should not meet and try and sort out the border. What is our game? What is India's biggest interest? India's biggest interest is we want a permanent solution, or we don't want to keep the border undefined. We want it decisive, right? We want it definitive.
Yeah.
That's our whole aim in this thing. So obviously we're going to meet them and try and get this. According to me, a lot of people are right? That it's a useless cause because these people are never going to live with India as a powerful power. They will always want to keep us busy. That's my view, right?
Yeah.
It was the view of the late George Fernandez. It was my late father's view. They've all written articles on this, that we are two different systems.
Yeah.
They are autocrats. We are a democracy, a thriving democracy, no matter how imperfect you may say it is. Right? We are a thriving democracy. We have fair and free elections, right? Governments can come and go. China is not. We are a country with an army. They are an army with a country, as I keep saying.
Okay, I'm going to take a break and come back and talk to you about domestic politics, bring you back here, and the Bharat Jodo Yatra that we talked about and what's happening in the opposition. But after a quick break. Hello and welcome back to a cover story conversation with Mahesh Jethmalani. We were talking about, Jairam and via Jairam to China. But let's now talk about domestic politics. In the end, this Bharat Jodo seems to, there seems to be this reinvention of Rahul Gandhi. At least, the crowds, the Yatra did get the crowds, it got the social media eyeballs, which is how Modi began also. I mean, before you laugh at it. This is exactly how Modi began his journey to Delhi.
Modi ji was much more savvy. He had much more depth, right? We've known Rahul for ages now. We've known the real Rahul, right? He doesn't have the gravitas. Right? I can't see Rahul, right, being a towering figure at an event like G20. Now, what is the Bharat Jodo Yatra, right? Again, of course, I come from a different space. I come from the BJP space.
Right.
For me, the Bharat Jodo Yatra was an event, right? So people are going to flock as it passes through.
He learned from the best. This is the event management
but he learned from the best, but he's a poor learner. That's all I can say. His yatra was not a success, according to me. I mean, it may have raised his stature in the eyes of some people, right? But not really. I mean, frankly.
For the limited purpose of within the Congress, for Rahul to reinvent his image and not be seen as a pappu, it's been seen as a success.
He needs to be much more than that. But see, there is no... look, if it was to make Rahul look like a potential leader within the Congress organization, right? It didn't. Because people were still... the Congress was still breaking. It was not jodoing. You had on the sidelines of the Bharat Jodo Yatra, you had, Digvijay being shut up by Jairam. One wanted to talk on Pakistan and say that the Balakot strike never happened. The other didn't want to say that, right? He said, no, we stand by the Indian Army for... Jairam said that, with all credit to him, right? On the other hand, you had Sachin and... on the very sidelines, Sachin and Gehlot sniping at each other. A major fight. It was a big flare-up. Then you had Anil Anthony, who said, I don't support this BBC documentary. It must be motivated. Because they once shown a map without Jammu and Kashmir, right? So what? First Congress को जोड़ो, फिर भारत के बारे में सोचो.
अच्छा, okay. पहले Congress जोड़ो, फिर भारत जोड़ो. But to come back to the political now, as you said in the beginning, it's the run-up to 2024. So we are going to see more of these kind of counterpoints from opposition and the government. How do you see where, in the end of the day, what happens to Parliament? What happens to legislation?
Look, I feel that Parliament should be allowed to function. There's good work going on in Parliament. Fortunately, parliamentary committees are still functioning, right? But the opposition will be debating. I said this today, I think, through another channel. What is Adani? It's an economic issue, it's a corporate governance issue, it's a financial issue, and it's a regulatory issue, right? In your budget, in your address, reply to the president's address, right? Or in your budget speeches, you can always weave this in.
Yeah.
Adani is not lost to you.
Correct.
It's that JPC thing only, but you can still bring it up. You're wasting an opportunity for yourself. If I was in their position, I would be using the platform of Parliament to bring it in indirectly. I shouldn't be giving them ideas, but you can still they can do it. That whole it's an economic debate. You say that, but what about Adani? You talked about your budget.
That's true. So you're saying they should engage instead of just disrupting.
I think engagement is always better than boycott. I mean, because boycott shows that you want to actually run away, right? The PM is not going to give it to a JPC at this stage, and in my respect, you rightly so. Right? He's not going to. You wait for the regulatory authorities to make their findings. And you see.
The another accusation against your government is that institutions are being undermined. I'll come back to this face-off between the lawyers and the collegium versus NJAC debate also. Why break it up now? Why, at the end of the day, let the judges decide who they want to. Everywhere, otherwise the executive will come in. Somebody will say quota lao. Already Sushil Modi has said bring in quotas and appointment of judges. So then it just becomes more and more politicized.
I have to say personally that you are on both sides. I am totally against this open, sniping between the judiciary and the law ministry or other dignitaries who've done it. I think institutions respect each other, and even if they have differences, it should be ironed out in a different manner. It should be ironed out behind closed doors. Right. There should be interlocutors who actually, bring the two together, because we have a separation of powers constitution. Now, of course, there are irritants on both sides, right? And that always happens. Judges are a very important aspect of our entire democratic system, right? So there will be differences, but it's just a manner, right? And actually, with the last judgment, the NJAC judgment, there's a door open for the government to come in through the memorandum of procedure, which is not yet finalized, right? So, negotiate for a place there, right? So that you have some say in appointment, or some official say, right? Rather than, so today, previously, particularly in the light of the emergency experience, people wanted the judges to be, on top.
Right.
So everybody, all the courts and the top lawyers of this country argued for something like a collegium, right? Primacy of the Chief Justice, then it became the collegium, right? But now, the latest trend is it to be, and concepts evolve, right, over time. In the last judgment in NJAC, there was a door open by the bench headed by Justice K.R. Singh, which said that we'll have an MOP and we'll make provisions for, a year to the government, a voice for the government. So work on that. See how much you can get elbow room in that very closed doors living room.
Yeah, but this is this politics of distraction also, because you kept the media headlines pretty busy for a month or so on this issue until BBC came in.
Until BBC,
right?
Yeah.
But so what are the elections? You're a professional who joined politics, right. So not just as a BJP member, but generally I want to ask you that what do you think? Is the next election going to be again on religion, because the Ram Mandir is going to be announced on 2024, 1st January. So is again religion going to be the dominant factor, or should it not be economics and jobs?
I think so. I think the last budget. In fact, I think that the opposition has run away from this budget session because the budget has been outstanding. Right? You want to
finally you recognize there's a middle class.
Yes.
Thank you.
No, of course there is a middle class, but listen, the middle class was a relative, better off class than the poorest of the poor. Okay. What Modi ji's policy has been like, let's get the poorest of the lowest of the BPL, the people at the absolute margins of poverty, right? Get them out of it, right? So everything has been, all the schemes, all the yojanas, the Swachh Bharat schemes, the insurance schemes, all this is geared for whom? It's geared for the poorest of the poor. They've been the most neglected lot. If you're talking about growth with equity, inclusive growth, that's where it starts. But in the minds of the opposition, it's only inclusive growth means minorities. But who said the minority is not doing well? I'm a minority. I'm a Sindhi. I'm doing well, right? That's what.
You were doing well before BJP.
Yeah. and the Parsi community is doing very well, right? There's a huge Muslim outreach right now. The Pasanda Muslims. There's a huge outreach.
And the women, triple talaq.
We are trying to get economic weaker sections. Luckily, the Supreme Court upheld it. The EWS quota, right?
Yeah.
On income grounds, so that it cuts across caste, right? We're trying.
So is that the plan? That see, in caste politics, your Hindu vote gets divided. So do away with caste, go on religion, go on to economics rather than caste politics. Is that? I mean, as a political strategy,
at some stage, I mean, are we going to have? What's going to happen? Are we going to wait for a time when today's OBCs become the upper castes, right? And the previous higher castes become the lower castes, become the OBCs. Right? And then again we have reservation for the new OBCs. At some stage, caste itself, right, has to go. When is it going to go? Right? Lots of people who are modernizing have stopped thinking of caste. Right? Even in caste-ridden places, caste is taking a backseat now. Right? It is a very important factor. The OBC community still wants to cling on to those reservations.
Otherwise, where will the politics of Nitish Kumar, Akhilesh Yadav, Lalu Yadav, the rest?
At some stage. So, you keep saying, when is religion going to stop as an issue with
That's
the BJP?
That's my next question, yes.
Yeah. So, the question is, when is Mandal and its successors going to stop being an issue?
Mandal and Kamandal. But then didn't the BJP, Modi government play into it when you release a list of a cabinet reshuffle along with their caste? What are you doing?
But that's the reality of it. It's a reality.
When you do it, it's a reality.
No, I'm saying that is not a fixed reservation. It is giving representation to everybody. That's something they're doing. They want to do even in the judiciary. But it's not a fixed quota.
With a lawyer, you can't argue.
It's not a fixed quota. No, it's not a fixed quota. It's not. It doesn't detract from merit. Right? It doesn't detract. It just makes it a little more exclusive. That's all. Right? And the people who are elected ultimately do get the fruits of power. Right? Question is, amongst them, you have to have a balanced composition. That's one aspect of governance. So you don't alienate any section within your own supporters.
But does economics win votes? Because we saw Narasimha Rao government, Chandrababu government in the past, not BJP Congress question, it's a general question. Economics doesn't really win elections. It's the emotion that comes with religion.
Well, we're an emotional country. You can't look, everybody's in this business for power. And they're in power because they think that they can do good with it. Whether they've done good with it or not, it's for the electorate to decide. Right? Modi ji has won twice now.
Yeah.
Hopefully, from my point of view, he's on course to win a third. That shows that the issues he's bringing to the fore are resonating with the people. That's what democracy is all about. Right? Now, some people are saying, people who have been adherents to the Congress, my God, when L.K. Adani used to talk about proportional representation, right? These people know first past the post in a country like India, we'll have, unstable governments like we had Italy and Germany and other places. Today, who's asking for proportional representation? The argument is Modi ji has only got 45 votes, more than 45 or 48% of the national vote. Right? But now he's going towards 50 anyway.
Okay. On that note, thank you so much, Mahesh Jethmalani, for speaking to us. And I hope with the election year coming up, we'll get more and more interviews like this because it's been a pleasure. Thank you.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.